What's up, Commonwealth, and welcome back to another great episode of the Bluegrass Soccercast, your home for all things soccer, right here in the beautiful Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'm, of course, your host, Mr. Jimmy. That's John. I was pointing to John. How are you, John?
I'm good. How are you? Sorry, I had forgotten I had accidentally muted the my computer because that intro was so loud.
But it gets you going. It's so exciting, man. It's
Yeah,
like
but
1990s wrestling.
when you go from no, it's not. Have you
Yeah,
heard the
close enough.
countdown?
It's like a new retro kind of thing. I don't know.
Okay.
On today's show, folks, we have a great show for you. Yes, we will get that. We will get that fixed to where it actually counts down as opposed to counting up. But it's like high school or college soccer. It counts up to 45. That's my random justification. Anyways, John, we got a great show for all of our fans tonight. We first have a great guest who we'll bring on here in just a second from the newly established Southern Indiana FC. But then we're also going to talk a little bit more in depth about the UPSL and what's happening on the semi-professional side for this season. So, John, with that all out of the way, anything before we jump in with our guest?
No, I'm all good.
Let's roll. Everyone, please give a hearty welcome to the sporting director and technical director for Southern Indiana United, Mr. Andrew Minnis. Did I get that right, Andrew?
Minnis.
Minnis. See, I knew I messed it up. That's why I was
Common
hesitant.
mistake.
Andrew, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good, doing good. There were head nods for the audio listeners. That's why, as I was trying to gulp down some vitamin water. Vitamin water. If you want to be a sponsor, please let me know. Andrew, we are not familiar with each other. So why don't you kind of take a moment to kind of introduce yourself to the audience and kind of talk to us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so like you said, I'm Andrew Minnis. I'm the sporting director and technical director at Southern Indiana Football Club. We're a new team, obviously, in UPSL and a new league coming in with a lot of exciting things coming up. My soccer background's been, again, my whole life as a player and as a coach. I've spent some time as a player, obviously playing club soccer in Kentucky once I first moved here with Rovers at the time, and then it was part of United back at the youth club level. Had some PDL time there as well when that was around. From there, went on to play at the University of Cincinnati and then finished my college career at Bellarmine University once they made the transition to Division I. Coaching wise,
Bearcat and Knight. Look at you.
I know. Coaching wise, spent some time majority at racing in Lou City Academy on the boys and girls side prior to going over to Southern Indiana United as their director of coaching. And then obviously now with Southern Indiana Football Club and this new opportunity full-time there as the sporting director and technical director.
Yeah, and for clarification for the audience there, it is Southern Indiana, but you all are basically Louisville, right?
No, we're true to Southern Indiana. I think that's the niche in terms of who we are, right? We do encompass Louisville and everything there, but I think the cool piece is we've really tried to embody being true to Southern Indiana and the people there, the culture there, and really providing the community with something special and something they can get behind that isn't necessarily a sub-segment of Louisville, but if we do it the right way, we can encompass both sides of the river there.
So, Andrew, have you been with Southern Indiana like from the beginning, like from the start, the launch of all of it?
I have, yep. Myself and Nick Hunter, who is our club president, like I said, we put this together and kind of made it come to life. And, we realized in Southern Indiana, it was a ton of opportunity there. It's a huge, sports community. It's something that people are very prideful, very passionate about Southern Indiana, and it's growing rapidly. And so for us, it just made sense to really give them something that they can call their own, get behind and support. And what we like to say is, we're going to grow together, right? And so as we grow, the community is going to grow, and us using these positive partnerships to really flourish Southern Indiana is unique. But yeah, from the start, so I've seen, kind of the idea all the way to, now with our full executive team, our full coaching staff and the roster being complete coming in, it's been a real experience.
So with that, how did like the branding and all that stuff come about? I know through your website and store, you're like big on the whole like Teal Nation or the Teal type stuff. So how about you kind of walk listeners through the kind of brainstorming and branding of a UPSL team?
Yeah, so I'll explain it in twofold. Number one is obviously the colors, right? Everybody knows you get your reds, your blacks, your blues, your whites, and that's a day. My goal was to stand out, to be something that makes sense, in terms of appealing both visually and as a brand, but then also, something that if you wear our jersey, if you see our crest, it's recognizable, right? It's not confused with anybody, but it doesn't look bad. And that was the big thing. I'll explain the logo too on the second piece, because I think that's a very important piece of who we are. Obviously, this is our full colored logo. If you've seen it, the Southern Indiana is very large. It's very white. It pops out. And with that, again, we wanted to encompass all of Southern Indiana. We didn't want to just be New Albany or Floyd or Jeffersonville, Clarksville. We really wanted to embody all of these different communities that make up Southern Indiana, and stay true to that, because that really is a big piece for us. And then obviously the bridge, the river is incorporated there. That are two staples when you think of Southern Indiana. Everybody knows that. And then we've got the little hammers here that really represents the blue collar heritage of Southern Indiana. You really meet a lot of people there that have been there for generations, have started businesses, who have been, hey, my dad went to New Albany. Hey, my dad went here, and my kids are going there now. And so really that blue collar heritage is something we want to embody as a club as well. That when you look at us, we're hard workers. We're guys who have been around, grown within the community long term. And so that's the thought process behind obviously the brand in terms of the colors and the idea. And then obviously the crest symbolizing the different aspects of the community that we want to embody going into this, organization.
That's really awesome, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I am guilty of that. I kept calling you all, Louisville's team. No disrespect to Southern Indiana, of course, but it's good to know for a clarification on that. Just because of proximity, that's what I was thinking. So when you're kind of thinking about building out the team, what are some of your long-term vision or long-term goals for Southern Indiana FC?
Yeah. And I mean, I want to share a lot. I don't know how much I can publicly share yet, but, UPSL is a starting point for us. It's definitely not the ending point. We have obviously very big ambitions. We've got a lot of things in the works. But, for us to come in and start it right away, we didn't want to necessarily be a club that says, hey, we've announced, and then we're sitting for 2 years waiting for things going on 3 years. So UPSL was a great way for us to start and continue to build our brand, be visible within the community, and start those relationships. But by no means is it the end point. We have very big aspirations, and we hope to really build the team around that and really engage everybody in that manner. Some cool items, from our end is we are building a full training facility that will open this June. That's going to be awesome. We're really excited about the partnership there. We've actually partnered with the Harrison County YMCA, which is a really unique partnership. The reason being is
really cool.
The accessibility, the ability to really match in terms of core values, mission, and vision. And then from their end, the accessibility to get families involved, both in the youth side and capacity as well as the adult side, is really unique. And within that partnership, our guys are getting a ton of resources as well, both from them and from obviously a full-time training facility standpoint that will be a mix of both very, very high quality natural grass as well as turf, all lighted fields and everything, as well as staff officing, which is a great piece for us. The futuristic piece to that is also we are planning to announce that we are going to be building a stadium in coming years. That is a really
you all are not playing around.
We're not playing around. No, like I said, we've had really big ambitions. We've had a huge buy-in from the community, and I think that that really resembles why Southern Indiana is so important to us and what we want to accomplish. So a lot of work's in the way. Like I said, by no means do I want to share it all now without it being premature, but I think it is an exciting story, and it is something that a lot of people can see that you don't need skyscrapers, you don't need a big city to really run something professionally and in the right manner. You just need the commitment, the buy-in from the community, and building on those positive relationships to accomplish your goals.
Wow, I'm quite impressed. Like that's a lot of for an early on franchise like this. You all have already built some really good relationships, as well as you've got some really good goals. When you're looking at building a franchise, because that's what you're doing, right? Like you're not just having the men's professional team and calling it quits. There's a lot that goes into it, right? We had BGFC's Michael Swarkos on a couple of weeks ago. He talked a lot about like the building of youth academies and having that youth to semi-professional or maybe eventually professionally one day as a real key cornerstone of their program. How do you all at Southern Indiana see stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's really realistic. And I'll answer your question in two pieces. We've already kind of done that in number one. If you look at our roster right now, we have incorporated 3 youngsters that are a part of the initial roster who we felt had a ton of potential. Obviously, I full-heartedly believe, and part of working with us is they will go on to play collegiately or beyond, but they've done very well. And I think making that very visible and realistic for young players to see that, hey, it's not just us talking and saying, hey, this could happen, and then nothing comes of it. It's about us being very true to it, and allowing them to be in a professional environment where they can earn opportunities, understand their development, both as a player, but I think ultimately as a person as well. You're around pros, you're around guys who understand the game at different capacities maybe than a young guy might. And so for us, it's all about player development, but also about personal development as well. Futuristically, obviously, will encompass youth programming as well. That fits within our model. I think we're full-heartedly keen on trying to run this and provide better opportunities and accessibility for our youth as much as possible. One of the cool things we've also encompassed, both on a competitive side, but also the recreational side as well, for teaching the game, learning the game. There's a different capacity, and every kid and family is in a different spot and what they want out of the game of soccer. And I think the more needs you can meet, right, the more holistic the experience becomes and the better experience it comes. One thing we are going to launch that I think is going to be really cool at the new facility is also adult recreation on the Southern Indiana side.
There you go.
So really just having a good time, with your coworkers, your family, your friends, and getting to see that brand, as well, and incorporating different ideas, I think is really exciting for what we're going to do. So those are kind of threefold in terms of, our growth projections, both from a youth and a community aspect. But I think it's really important, to make it visible and understand that, the more accessibility, the more opportunity we can provide to our youth, the better opportunities they're going to have, to reach their goals.
That's awesome. And you're even getting some love in the chat there from a competitor-ish, Louisville Dynamo, saying good luck to you guys as well. So thank you all for watching as well. So as you're building the organization, one of the things that really struck me was your core values of heart, and I liked all of them, but specifically heart. That was a really good way to lay out that value. How do you see yourself and the rest of the staff living out your core values and the mission on the field?
Yeah. So, for me personally, when we're putting this idea together of the organization, culture is very important. Culture, sets the alignment of every staff personnel we bring in, every player we bring in, and what we want to be and encompass. But I think also it's got to be very visible, right? If we put something out, we want to be able to be seen that way. And so the heart culture, obviously, overall, the heart, really came from, you play the game with your heart. It's a passion. It's a love for the game. It's something that you want to embody. From us as a staff and an organization all the way down to every player we bring in and recruit and vet through is, we obviously want to build a championship level team, but you can only build a championship level team with quality people. And if you do it the right way and they're bought into what we're expecting from them, and they're bought in to being involved in the community, if they're bought in, to showing up every day to the standard that we've set, ultimately you're going to go farther. And so when we look at our core values and our mission and vision, it was the first thing that when we sat down, myself and Nick, it was, this has to be right. If we don't get this right, we're going to fall short somewhere. And so our mission, vision, values are a very, very big piece. That's why you see it so much. But for us, every single person that walks through our doors, whether it's a player, whether it's coaching staff, whether it's our full executive team, all the way up to the top, we resemble those values. And that's got to be on the field, in terms of the play, the effort, the response when things don't go well. How do we act when things are going well, right? How do you act in times of adversity? How do you respect your teammates in maybe a disagreeing moment? But for us, it's instilling those values to every single player, because we ultimately know that if we can do that, the players are brought into it, we're going to go a lot farther, than we would without that.
So with that strategy and stuff, how has recruitment for the upcoming season gone? And how has identifying those players that meet those core values gone as you're fielding your first ever team?
Yeah, it's never easy, as a new team coming into any league in any capacity, right? But I think one thing that we've really honed in on is being very transparent about what we expect and the standard that we've set, and the culture we want to create. And I think a lot of the guys that you look at, if you are paying attention to our roster, we've got quite some big names within the roster. And so for us, attracting those sort of players, both as a quality, perspective, and then also as a personal perspective, good players want to be around good players. And so for us, is very intentional about getting the core group in, and finding those pieces that align, But I think for us, when you look at the roster, I feel like we've done a really good job of getting a mix of your very experienced guys. You got guys like Kenny Walker, who's been in MLS, and been around for a while. One of the most exciting guys that I'm really looking forward to, who's actually flying in tonight, Daiki Ozawa, who's a Japanese international. I don't think we've announced two other of the really big signings. One of them I know both of you guys will know very well, from Lexington. So there's one there. And then we've also got one guy.
That's a heck of a tease. Hold on now. I hate to interrupt you, but that's a heck of a tease.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we've been very intentional about that. But I'll let you guys play around with that for a little bit. Same thing. We've got a guy previously that's been in the works with Indy 11 that's in this week that I think we're going to be with. And so I think that just goes to show that it's not necessarily about, hey, this is just a UPSL team. This is what we're building. This is a foundation that from the start, we want to make sure we're very intentional about the guys that we're bringing in. So it's been enjoyable to answer your question, shortly, but at the same time, it's a lot of work to make sure we get the pieces right.
Now, if I know Jon, and I feel like I do, he is studying the roster from last year right now. That's what
if I guess it, will you say it?
Yeah.
Is it Diallo Iracosa?
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. Hey, that's a good get.
He had played with Metro Louisville, I believe, before joining us. So I was like, what player has ties around there would be familiar with there? And he's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, it is.
Well done, Jon.
We've got Diallo. The announcement.
Well, then good. Let's see if I can get an article going for that then, too.
So you really have had a lot of heavy hitters and bigger names coming into the roster. But, you talked a little bit earlier about finding that culture and helping build with some youth and stuff in there as well. How have you went into establishing this first roster?
Yeah, so when we look at establishing the first roster, I think the biggest thing for us was to really bring in a level of professionalism. Number one, that's who we want to be as an organization, right? We don't want to be all over the place. We've set the standard very high, and so we want people who resemble that. Number two, obviously the quality of play, right? We're obviously here. We're ambitious. Our goal is to win championships and have the standards high and be competing at the highest level. But then the third piece that I think that's really important, that's often overlooked, is the balance of the roster, right? Guys understanding expectations, roles, responsibilities within that roster. And I think if you can balance that in a very intentional manner, right? Generally, guys are more bought in over the course of a long season, right? And with different variations and what you're looking at. You know, I always say, you know, you can have 30 guys who are your all-stars, but generally that's never going to work because only 11 guys can play at a time, right? So I think being very clear with players, very honest, open, concise is always important. But I think when we've really looked at the mix of the roster, we've got a very deep roster that I think, you know, the level doesn't drop. The impact players are still there. But they all understand that nothing's guaranteed. And so showing up every day, you know, really competing, you know, within our training environment, earning that, but also having the respect for one another that, hey, you know, these guys are my teammates, whoever's on the field, we're all committed to the same goal of winning every single game that we possibly can. And I think that balance goes a long way, especially when, you know, as a quote unquote professional, you know, there's limited time, there's limited spots. And if you can get a group that's bought into that, you know, that's the important piece that, you know, sometimes people miss.
So with that, oh, sorry, John, were you going to say something?
I was just commenting. You're all good.
So with kind of that structure in place there, what kind of players is Coach Adams looking for? What kind of formations? What are we should we expect from the coaching staff this season?
Yeah, I think, you know, our style is one that's very dynamic. I think we have the capability of playing, you know, a variety of formations and systems. You know, I'm sure you'll see, you know, 4-3-3, 3-5-2, 4-4-2 diamond. You know, there's flexibility within the roster because I think that, again, we want to prepare and set ourselves up for success, right? And we know that we're going to have to adapt. We know other teams are going to do their research, and there's going to be moments where we have to be prepared, you know, to change, to find ways to succeed. And so we've really built the roster on a entertaining and dynamic style, players who are enjoyable to watch, what we want to see, you know, both on and off the field. But I think the adaptability piece is one that I think sets us apart. When you look at the type of players we brought in, you know, we've got a Spanish international in Francisco Anton, you know, a great center back who's composed on the ball, but great at going forward as well. You know, guys like Diallo, Salati, guys who have been in high level, you know, environments who can get forward, but also understand how to be good in big moments. You know, David and Igor Ibrahim Kadic, you know, the Bosnian brothers, you know, guys who have been around, who have a level of professional and level of composure, but are exciting on the ball, you know. And then you've got your guys like Kenny and these guys who have been around, who are leaders and can lead you through those moments of adversity, but are still someone you want to show up and watch every day. And so I think that's the exciting piece for us, is being, you know, diverse, being adaptable, but also being, you know, on the front foot. We want to control the game. We want to dictate the tempo of the game, you know, generally. And if we can make other teams adapt to us rather than vice versa, I think, you know, generally you set yourself up to be in a better position.
Most definitely.
John, you got any questions there?
Trying to connect conversation right now. Go ahead, Jimmy, if you got one.
I was just gonna, you know, say coach, or not coach. Sorry, I was looking at coach, your coaching list a second ago. That's where my brain went.
Yeah.
What do you think will be some of the biggest challenges this season coming into the UPSL?
Well, I think for us, it's, you know, as a first-year club, it's got to be just getting on the same page. We've got a lot of guys from a lot of different environments, you know, at a lot of different levels, you know, who we feel are the right pieces, but getting that cohesion and connectivity, you know, within the club and what's expected and within our system, we've seen early on. Like I said, we're 2 preseason games in now. And we've seen tremendous growth from, you know, the FC Cincinnati game all the way, you know, to when we played yesterday. But I think the big thing for us is, number one, within ourselves, you know, finding that identity, finding that cohesion, you know, within our system. And then I think the biggest thing for us is really going to be, and I'm sure you guys know this, is the UPSL can be very unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get. And so for us, it's about how quickly can we adapt, how quickly can we take the circumstances we're given and apply our core principles within that, you know, to be successful. So there's a lot of unknown, especially as a first year. You know, we can do all the research, the scouting, you know, find out what we can. But simply, sometimes you never know within a league like this, where, you know, some teams are as well as new as you, and some guys, you know, the roster's changing all the time. And so for us, it's about finding that balance of how do we stay true to ourselves, but how do we also prepare, for each opponent specifically to win the game.
So in doing so with that preparedness and stuff, what do you think outside of maybe players or that type of thing should fans be excited for? Should they be looking forward to with this upcoming season?
Yeah, I think it's really what we've been built on, and that's the community involvement. I think for us, we want to be visible. Some highlights maybe for you guys that we'd see is like the New Albany Floyd County Library. We're on their reading program across the community. Getting involved, doing things like that. Norton Sports Health and Norton Healthcare we've worked with, and so what we're doing is hospital visits there. Camps and community clinics, for New Albany Housing Authority, Cordon Low Hispanic Income, lots of just community involvement and avenues where we can use our platform to not only reach out to soccer fans, but to embody a family experience, right? And something that's enjoyable, whether it's a parent bringing their kids one time a week to the game and that's where they get to have a good time together, or it's maybe your diehard soccer fans that, know everything about the game and analyze it and go from there. Or it's simply just, hey, we love the people that are involved. Maybe this player showed up and got to know my kid. We're planning on doing leadership programs where our players connect with one individual kid and talk to them and just help them, through different things throughout the year. And so I think just that community aspect and awareness is really important, for us and being excited. But then also we want people to show up to the games excited, to be there because of what we're doing and the quality on the field, but also what we're doing at the field. One cool thing that we've done that might sound funny, but it is true, is like we've got a cotton candy machine that makes teal SIFC cotton candy, right? That kids can have fun with,
There you go. That's a good one.
Different things like that, that embody that family atmosphere. And so it's about trying to hit as many people as we can, to be excited. But I think the big part, I keep going back to is just the visibility. If you show up, if you're committed to your community, it's going to be reciprocated.
Now, you all are the most northern of the teams in the UPSL Kentucky-Tennessee division. How are you feeling about travel coming up? You're going to have to make some trips down to Chattanooga. I was just looking, your first one being on April 13th when you play Paul DePay FC down there. Or that's in Georgia?
It is. I just found that out as well.
Okay, we're both learning. I thought they were in Chattanooga.
They're probably in the Georgia part of the Chattanooga metro.
I forget Chattanooga's so far south. Sorry,
It's
Tennessee.
literally on the border.
I've literally been to Chattanooga once in my entire life, so sorry.
Yeah, I think the travel piece is going to be interesting. Not from we can't travel, but just from an experience of, when you're traveling to a Georgia that's 6.5, 7 hours away. How do you get off the bus, right? And prepare yourself to turn around and play. And what does that look like, for a lot of these guys who maybe haven't been in it or are coming back into that scenario. I think the schedule, though, from what we've seen, is a pretty nice one in regards to us. I think that really is our only far trip. I know we've got a couple to Bowling Green, and we lucked out nicely with, hosting Jackson, hosting, Chattanooga as well. Within that kind of framework. And so really, that's going to be our biggest test, is going to Dalton. How do we play there? How do we get off a long bus ride and what's the response? And then for most of these guys, Bowling Green isn't too terrible of a trip for us. We actually gain an hour with them being central, so we can leave a little early or whatnot. But, traveling is one. You see it a lot in youth teams, right? That you travel 8-9 hours and then it's like, man, how do we play? For us, we want to, again, within that professional environment, prepare our guys correctly so that, we can leave on time. We make sure that we're there, let them relax a little bit when they get off the bus, get their mind right, get a good warm up in and hit the ground running. What you don't want to do is jump off the bus and play.
Definitely don't want to.
Well, Coach, we'll kind of get you out of here on the last couple of questions here. You mentioned earlier the importance of community engagement. What is kind of your message to the fans, and how can they help Southern Indiana continue to grow into being a full-fledged UPSL and maybe USL?
Something.
How do you? How
Yeah,
do you hope to
no,
do that?
I know where you're going, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too early. But
So there is
no,
a
I
cat
think
in
from
that
us,
bag. Hold
it's
on. Okay.
there's a lot of exciting things, and I think for the community, in terms of working with us, is we've been one that we want to be real, and we want to be someone that people enjoy working with and supporting. And so for us, it's about as we grow, the fans' engagement. They make up what we do. Fans are really the point of the club. If we can have their support, if they can buy into what we're doing, both from a cultural to a performance standpoint, we're going to go the distance because of them. It's one of those things I tell everybody. It's not like any other sport. Soccer, if you don't have the community backing, you're going to fall through right then and there. And so we want to be real. We want to be supportive. But we also want to be engaging for fans, like I said, of all realms of life, not just your diehard soccer fans. We want it to be an enjoyable experience, and so my message is to come out and support because we want to give back to you guys, and we know that it's because of the fans that we're able to do what we do. But again, there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to. So I tell everybody, if you're a fan now, you get to go through that process with us, and it's always more meaningful when you see the building blocks, start to go up from what it was now and what it is in 3 years. So we're really excited about it, and we think the Southern Indiana and Louisville and beyond, can really get behind this and what we're doing.
Awesome, Andrew. It's awesome to hear. I hope hope a lot of fans find this little our small little podcast. I hope they're able to find this and hear this as well, and hear all these great things you've been saying.
Absolutely. Andrew, well, last question for you, sir. The floor is all yours. What is your final message, and where can fans continue to follow Southern Indiana FC?
Yeah, so again, fans can follow us. We're on all social media. Just type in Southern Indiana FC. Our website is just southernindianafc.com. We post a ton of content, engaging things, cool things that are upcoming are player content, interviews, different things with news. So I'm sure you'll see us around, but get to know the players, get to know the staff. We really want to embody that personal culture where fans can know our players and know their stories and relate to them as well as us as a staff and executive office and everybody in between. We're really excited for the upcoming season. And like I said, for anybody, whether you're a supporter of a different team or us solely, we want to embody, soccer support and a quality soccer experience for everybody that they can come to and be a part of. So we're excited for what's to come, and we hope that everybody continues to grow with us because there's a lot of good things in store for the community and beyond.
And that community is going to get like a full season, right? Spring and possibly a fall season.
Correct. Spring and fall for
Let's
sure.
go.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, Southern Indiana, you have your premier UPSL franchise there now, Southern Indiana FC. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us, sir. We will look forward to covering your games. I was looking at the schedule. There's definitely some matches I know I can make it up to for. So very much looking forward to meeting you in person and cheering the team on.
Thank you guys so much for having me. We really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you guys again this season.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, guys.
Boom. John, that was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's very seeing UPSL, especially that they're like already probably a top dog in UPSL now.
Absolutely.
With all that backing. Because for those that don't know, the UPSL is literally the coin toss of semi-pro amateur.
Yep. It's a very thin line
of the major leagues. There's a lot of random small leagues in America, but of like the major national leagues, UPSL is like a coin flip of, are these teams legit? Like Bowling Green, like Southern Indiana, like some of the ones that you'll see compete in the Open Cup, or are they like semi-existent and will play half a season before they just like fizzle out and disappear?
Hey, and we've seen it happen. There was a team. Oh goodness, our producer will have to remind me. There was a team last spring that was supposed to be in, and they were in, I think it was Allegiance or Alliance, something like that in Louisville. They were supposed to be in the spring league, and then the season started, and they never played a game. If unless my memory is mistaken, I don't think they ever played a game. So yeah, you're exactly right, John. Like, and it's going to be a weird mix, for teams like Southern Indiana with their ambition, with Tennessee Tempo and their achievements that they've had, along with Bowling Green and their ideas of moving up and potentially doing more throughout the years. Like, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. John, when we're kind of looking at the Kentucky Tennessee division, just want to briefly kind of recap all the teams in the league this year, and we'll start our conversation from here. So these are just in alphabetical. Nope, they're not even in alphabetical order. This is literally a random order. So 9 teams this spring in the Kentucky Tennessee division or conference. Starting with right here in Bowling Green, FC Leopards, which is a team mostly made up of refugees here in the Bowling Green community. We will actually have them on. I'm trying to quickly scan through my notes on our March 4th show. So that'll be a really great opportunity for those fans to continue to learn more about our club. So we've got FC Leopards to start. We have Chattanooga United FC, which is one of 2 teams down in the greater Chattanooga area. We've got Pre-College Developmental Academy, which they came into the UPSL Kentucky Tennessee Conference a couple of years ago. They're a smaller high school to college developmental academy, and they are a tough out for a lot of teams in this conference. They're based in, I believe, in kind of Murfreesboro, Nashville general area. FK Han, which is the other new team here in Bowling Green, though they may split some time in Elizabethtown as well, based on where their tryouts were. From all understandings of that club to this point, they're a smaller club that is mostly Bosnian and some refugees as well. That have come together to form hopefully a quite potent team, but we'll have to see. Then we've got the Bowling Green Golden Lions, who have been one of the staples in this league for several years now. Followed by a team that I just found out is playing in Georgia, Paul DePay FC, which is in the greater Chattanooga area. Yep, I was today years old when I realized that Chattanooga was basically on the Georgia border. You're welcome, America. That's Kentucky public education at its finest. Then we have Southern Indiana FC, who we just had Andrew on from, and I think they're going to bring some noise. We've got the Jackson, Tennessee Boom, which are a relative newcomer to the Kentucky Tennessee Conference, out of course, Jackson, Tennessee. I believe they debuted last fall, was their first time in the league, so they're a relative newcomer as well. And then, of course, you've got the staples. You've got the team that everybody's going to look to knock off, Tennessee Tempo FC. So, John, as you're kind of looking at the conference, and this being your first full spring looking at it, what are your thoughts on how this gauntlet stacks up? Completely hands in the air.
It's UPSL. There's that I know of, and you guys will find out the other one tomorrow. There's 2 former Lexington players in this division. Diallo being one with Southern Indiana. There's another one that we'll announce tomorrow.
That's a heck of a teaser. Well done.
There's a boatload of randos honestly in it, and with it you get these guys that pop in. Jansen Wilson just signed with Lou City, but he only played 10 games with Bowling Green, so you'll have it's a bunch of these popping in, popping out, whatever. It's kind of like what can you grab? What kids coming up can you grab from high school, college ranks? What possibly Division III pros that are maybe were fringe professional players on at the pro level type deal or some other reason has dropped them below the professional ranks and they just need kind of that fresh start, restart type thing to go back up, it's honestly up in the air. I gotta see how this shakes out first before I see. Now you have traditional powers, yeah, because teams can recruit well and stuff, but even traditional powers can have an off year or something happens where someone else takes control.
And I think that's a great transition to one of the things that I really want to talk about. And we're still working on getting some additional UPSL guests to come on the show. I would really like to work out a schedule to get a few more people on, just because I think it's great to share semi-professional sports, because a lot of these teams have really high ambitions, and I really want to help elevate them like we do some of the players that we have on the show. But if you look at Tennessee Tempo, John, I think that is the team that you exactly mentioned that is that juggernaut traditionally, but they're kind of in a weird phase. You know, their legs are getting a little bit older. The Poku brothers, who have been running this league for several seasons now, are a little bit older. And when they run up against those equally talented teams, your South Carolina Heats, or in the U.S. Open Cup last spring, the Des Moines Minnis. They really are starting to show a little bit of tired legs in those moments. So I'd be really interested to see, can they rebound with some younger, fresh talent to help push that roster back up to where they used to be. Now, kind of looking at the rest of the league here, I think Tempo has got to be number one heading into the preseason. If I was ranking them, they would still be my number one. I think from what I'm hearing, Southern Indiana and Bowling Green, they've got some good signings, as John alluded to, that are coming along. And I think they're going to make some noise, but until you knock off Goliath of Tennessee Tempo, I still think it's their league to run. Um, some teams that I just don't know nothing about, man. The two teams down in the Chattanooga area, I have no clue. I've tried to look at their social media and keep up with them, but I just can't judge what kind of rosters they may have. Um,
And that comes down to like how these teams are perceived. Some teams might not be investing in social media or not really caring about social media because they could, they might not be like Southern Indiana where they can have this full staff and all this type of stuff where it could be the head coach is also the sporting director, is also the bus driver. They're everything in one. Like that's kind of how it can exist. So he might not be caring about creating a graphic or putting something up on Twitter to announce a signing. He's caring about trying to find the next signing when during like on his off time of his day job or something like that. Could be how it is.
Yeah, and it's surprising, and that's one of the things that Southern Indiana really surprised me about is how big their front office is. Right, like when you're looking at their page,
they're gonna go pro in some way.
Yeah, they have to. Like
but
this
I don't
is
know how.
uh, money. That's how.
Where are they going?
That was the easy question.
Where are they going though?
I could see him in USL League One. I really could.
How?
How? What do you mean?
Territorial rights.
What, Lexington got those territory rights that far over?
They're in Lou's territory.
But Lou is champion.
Yeah. So
could you not have like, okay, let's pick a different area of the country.
Lexington had to get permission by Lou to come into the league.
Oh.
It's all USL. Because that was also talks with like Chattanooga FC because people are like, just bring them up to the championship. But that's not how that works. Chattanooga Red Bulls have like the full USL territory rights for their area. Because like that also, if it's not going to happen to Lou City, but if they fall on financial times like North Carolina did, like Richmond did, type deal where they might have to drop down the league, that's where the issues arise.
Right. If we ever get that pro rel.
Yeah. Well, I don't see them keeping territory rights with Pro Rel, but I could see them going to NISA, or they could be an independent team in MLS Next Pro.
Oof. No, I hope not that. I'd rather
That's
see
the
him
only
stay
other
independent.
options. That's the only.
But they could
They
go
are
Nisa.
independent. They are independent. If you join MLS Next Pro, you can be an independent club.
I don't know. I just feel like if you do that, like you're crossing a line that you're not going to get to come back from. Because let's be honest, no offense to Southern Indiana, they're never going to be an MLS team. So if you jump to MLS Next Pro or
That's not
MLS
meant to be
Next,
an
whatever,
MLS Next team. That's not meant to be an MLS team. It's meant
exactly. And
as
I
a
want
development
to see them
league.
climb. Like I don't want to see them get capped at a level already.
They ain't gonna climb any higher unless they magically pull out 20 million, which they might have, or 500 million.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I, I have no idea. They seem to be well sponsored. Southern Indiana
They
does.
do seem to be well sponsored, but how well sponsored is my question.
Yeah.
Because
How
that's
deep
kind
are those
of
pockets?
there's talks of, I think, the MPSOs. There's talks about them launching a professional league, trying to talk with USSF about creating a D4 sanctioning, and MPSL's buy-in would be like 2.5 million. So like, there's all these talks. We don't know the MLS Next Pro buy-in. NISA technically is no buy-in, but NISA has its own issues.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, there's all these talks about like where the levels exist. They could be joining the Open Soccer Alliance, which is the other D3 one coming along too.
I don't know
So
anything about that. What's that?
it's nothing right now.
Okay.
That's kind of a thing I want to see what happens, but they're like one that's like heavy on regionalization. So where I think they'll be more like a USL2 esque type deal at the D3 level, where it's very or UPSL, where it's very regionalized thing, and then you might play in a playoff type
So
deal,
just like the UPSL.
but like a pro level.
Hmm. For the audio listeners, I'm just kind of letting that wash over me and just kind of thinking about that. That's interesting. I don't quite know how it would feel any different than the UPSL, which, I mean, at this point, sometimes I feel like the UPSL is literally just letting in anybody who's paying. But, maybe if you slap that a little bit more professional mindset onto it, maybe it is a little bit different in that way. But yeah, Southern Indiana, I think they've got a great shot. They're gonna finish probably first or second, maybe third, depending on how some things shake out. Just in kind of my opinions, I think the signing that they announced here, Diallo.
Diallo Yakosa.
Yeah, I think that's a really good signing. Um, Talk to us about what he did last year with Lexington.
It's kind of hard because him and some other players kind of struggled. Let me just pull him up here. He appeared in 5 total matches. Didn't get any starts. Logged 81 minutes. What was weird with him is that he logged early minutes. Like, he appeared in our first ever game against Knoxville as a sub. So he logged some early minutes, but he in it at the start of the season, and then we didn't really see him, especially not within the 18 until like, I want to say towards the end of the season when they were kind of trying stuff out. He's a good. He's a defender, he's a defender, but he reminds me more of a central defensive mid of
Right.
what he could play in his skill set, and so, like I said, I don't get to watch guys in training, so I don't really know their full capabilities. But from what I saw, he's got good, solid things. He didn't really play enough to where he can make his mark in a lot of games. Um, got put in there. He knows, like, you could argue garbage time situations or just getting experience, he's good. He's definitely good. I feel like UPSL will give him more time, just on the field in general where he can show his ability. But we'll have to see how he fits Southern Indiana's system.
Yeah, and I think they've, depending on how the coach lines things up, and the formation seems to make sense from what I recall from the conversation. Um, I'm waiting for it to load. Coach Adams, seemingly from what Andrew was saying about his approach in the formation, yeah, a good defender is going to be useful for any formation that he throws out there, right?
Yes. And our producer did just correct me. So I guess USL 1 has their own territory rights. So they could go
So,
USL 1, but I don't know exactly how far that territory rights extend. Because I
yeah.
know Tormenta has blocked Savannah Clovers before. And
Oh, that would be so good.
they're about an hour or so apart. So
Mm,
if Southern Indiana can go USL 1, they might be on the fringe of Lexington's territory.
I'm doing the.
That's the thing. I've not yet been able to find any document that actually says so much mileage or drive time or however it's considered.
So it's 82 miles between New Albany and Lexington, or an hour and 20 minutes.
Maybe, could be. I could fully see the USL saying you get you get 100-mile radius around your city or your
Mm-hmm.
stadium.
But
So
then, going back to Lou City, what does that mean for them?
what does that mean for them with the possible jump of Lexington?
Yeah.
So
So you're saying maybe a Lex jump up to champion?
there is rumors with how Lexington has built this roster, the amount of money they've splashed, that they are doing a North Carolina-esque. These rumors are kind of brought up by Forward Madison. They were kind of floating around for a bit, but then Forward Madison did a town hall a few weeks ago where their coach kind of said, there is rumors of a team making the jump. And it was kind of like in allude to Lexington. He doesn't
Wow.
outright say it, and the question's not directed towards Lexington, but the context clues give people the vibe, so that it's Lexington.
What were the context clues? That team in green?
No, at the time, Lexington is the one who has splashed the most cash in terms of signings and that sort of deal.
Wow. Okay. That would be huge. That totally changes everything.
Now, I had heard from many people in the club that the ambition was always to the championship, but they had an end goal of making it up to the championship. This rumors are saying it's going to be by next season, and
Next year?
Yeah, that's the rumors. Again, all these are rumors. No, there's nothing. Nothing's been set in stone. Nothing's been released by the club. These are just rumors that have been floating around, that I've heard through the grapevine, that I've seen through other stuff. The only evidence I have to point to this is how North Carolina built their squad last year and how we're building our squad. That's it.
Wow.
So, and that's just, that is the rumors going around that it could be as early as next year. I think if we were to do it, it'd probably be as late as, I was thinking probably around 28, 30 range if we were to do it. Be a team in the USL for 5 years, then make the jump.
Yeah, I understand that timeline. Especially as a fan, right? You would want to make sure that it's enough time to really prepare a good active roster, but like you mentioned, the way they're spending money, that really points me to think it may be sooner than that. Now, I think a move directly next year feels a bit like a stretch, unless there's going to be some backfill in League One with some additional players or some additional teams. My apologies.
You mean the 5 teams?
Who else coming in next year?
Portland, Maine, Brooklyn, New York, supposedly Texacoma, which is in Sherman, Texas, Antelope Valley, which is in Lancaster, California, and then supposedly Santa Barbara Sky or so. Oh, no, wait. It's 6 because there's also Naples, Florida.
I forgot all about that.
So
I remember
5,
talking about
Santa,
that, but
Santa Barbara is effectively, in my opinion. Because the last I heard, they do not have a majority owner, and they kind of have a stadium situation figured out. Maybe, I don't know if that fell through because they didn't launch or something like that. But yeah, Santa Barbara looks dead in the water right now unless they can find a majority owner. Brooklyn
that sucks.
is going to be Brooklyn actually is going to have a women's team be playing before their men's team. Antelope Valley and Texacoma are like possible ones. They aren't technically classified as official expansion teams, but they both have stadium situations. Texacoma's already released its branding. Antelope Valley, I know, has been doing branding, focus groups in that sort of sense. So on paper, they look to me at least like they're going to do.
And Michael points out a good thing here. Sacramento and Oklahoma being currently the closest USL and USL. What did I say?
Oklahoma.
I'm sorry. My apologies on that. Sacramento and Oakland being the closest USL teams, which are just 80 minutes apart. But again, that's a huge metropolitan area.
Yeah. So
thank you, Michael.
That's the thing with territory rights is that there's a bit of like population because like MLS has territory rights and New York and LA both have 2 teams.
Right.
So it more comes down to so many within a certain population area type deal. Like I could see the USL. I don't think they would, but I could see the USL going into the like mid New Jersey market possibly to kind of get that like Philly, New York overspill type thing. Because that's really in the Northeast. That's really all they can go to. Like they're not one thing. The USL is not going to go at MLS areas. You can make the argument they are doing that in New York, but New York is literally like a borough city. Like there are people that solely live within their boroughs and they don't leave unless they're like genuinely traveling type deal. So Brooklyn is very like the Cosmos drew well even with the Red Bulls and NYCFC up there. So that's a little different, but I do not see them going.
The Cosmos
like
have
LA.
History and everything.
Not these
them.
Cosmos.
Yeah, not those.
These
Cosmos.
These are Rocco's Cosmos. These are not NASL Cosmos.
Oh, man, that was so fun back in the day. Some other thoughts are kind of pouring in here. Louisville Dynamo jumping back in, talking about their goal of joining the OVPL or the UPSL by the end of the year.
For those that don't know, it's the Ohio Valley Premier League.
Correct. Which does have 2 Kentucky-based teams. They have or at least last year they did, the Northern Kentucky Nitro. And the Danville Locomotive, which Danville, I still say, has one of the coolest logos in all of soccer.
It's El Paso. Have you seen the El Paso Locomotive?
It looks better, Danville. Danville did it right.
I will give them, they have a better color scheme, so it makes it look better. But it is very El Paso Locomotive-esque.
Michael also jumping back in here with Tarleton, New Jersey. I don't even know where that.
Trenton.
My dyslexia is really kicking in tonight. I apologize, y'all. I had to read something earlier that I submitted,
What
and
did
like a
you even
voiceover thing.
say?
It took me
What
way
did
too.
you
I don't know. I said Tarleton. I don't know. That's a
Carlton? That's
college
not
in
even.
Texas.
That's not even. There's no
No,
like CH or anything in
nope. There's no L. Nope. Mm-mm. Welcome to my brain, John. Thank you, Michael, and the Louisville Dynamo for joining the show. John, before we close out the UPSL kind of preview, I did want to kind of pull it back just a hair. I again think there's a big top three. I can't quite decide what order they're going to finish in. I think the Tempo are in the top three. I think the Golden Lions are in the top three, and I think Southern Indiana are the top three heading into the season. John, any thoughts on where you think any of these teams may or may not finish?
I genuinely have no idea. Tennessee Tempo are a powerhouse. I could throw them up there. Southern Indiana seems legit with who they brought in. I will put them in the upper half. Bowling Green, I know, is legit. They're really serious and committed. So I'll throw them in the upper half. I don't know about the other teams. Then there's like 4 or 5 new teams. Is it?
Mm-hmm. There are several
Um,
new teams.
I don't know about the other ones outside of Southern Indiana. I'm not this, and this is no hate. The UPSL teams that are like specific groups, typically, where they like go from certain demographics. Either you know, was the name in Bowling Green for
FK
the
Han,
Hans are more
Leopards.
the leopards are the Africans. Hans are this thing when they kind of go towards those like groupings. Sometimes they don't do as well because they hindered their recruitment policies. You know, we see there's certain even major clubs in the world that have done that before and they aren't that successful at it. And a lot of the clubs that did used to do it no longer do it, or they've like very much loosened up those things. So those teams could be great. They could succeed. Those they come from demographics that produce amazing players all over the world. But my worry is, could you be hindering your development by saying we only want people from this area, or we only want people from this group, because we want to be of this group in this community, which is good. There should be community clubs in that sort of sense. But like, does it cost you results?
I forgot I was muted. Yeah, I think it's a really good point. You want to make sure that you do have a good broad base of players, and I think, especially in the Leopards case, I think they are trying to really expand their pool of players. Yes, they have a great history in this town of representing that a certain group here, but I think they're really trying to expand. I really think they've got some ambitious goals. We just gotta try and see if them or FK Han or uh, Jackson Tennessee Boom or whoever, if they can continue to build like some of those other staples in the league have done over the years. John, kind of quickly here before we end the show, I wanted to take a couple minutes. Have you had a chance to watch much of the Gold Cup, the women's Gold Cup that's happening right now?
I haven't had much. The U.S. women have cakewalked it. I know
Yes, they
that
have.
much.
Uh,
There is a lot of W League players featuring throughout this tournament. The Puerto Rican goalkeeper plays for Tormenta in their W League side, and all that type stuff. So the women's Gold Cup is weird because like Brazil's participating in it, and it goes
yeah, that
back.
was in Argentina.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to one of my things that were like, especially with how the Copa is going. I'm at the point where they just need to combine the federations
That
because
would be interesting,
South America is so small where it only has 10 teams.
right?
Um,
And they're all really good. What?
all are really good. They have like 3 to
Chile has
4.
made a World Cup. Come on.
Making a World Cup's a little different. Not them all being really good. It's two different things. They all have had streets of success, but I'm not scared of like Bolivia.
Hey man, Team USA versus Bolivia. I'm not penciling in a W. That's all I'm gonna say.
You lack faith.
I do because I wait to see it on the field. I must be from Missouri. Anyways, dad jokes aside, uh, Team USA in their two matches up to this point before their third match kicks off in about 30 minutes or so. 5-0 over the Dominican Republic. A late goal by Alex Morgan to put them up 5-0. They follow that up with another Alex Morgan and a Lindsey Horan goal +2 by Shaw to take a 4-0 victory over Argentina, heading them into the second round. Now they do host Mexico tonight at 9:15. I don't know if that's Eastern or Central time. But that match will determine who is the winner of the match, and that is happening out in California, the stadium where LA Galaxy and Inter Miami just played. So should be an interesting match. Anytime USA Mexico plays, no matter the gender, no matter the sport, no matter the location, it's always going to be a competitive match. But come on, it's Team USA Women's. It's a win. They're moving on to be the number one seed of the knockout round.
True. So we'll see what happens, but I think they'll be fun. I think they'll make at least the semis in this. That would depend on their draw in the semifinals, but I feel like they're destined for the semifinals.
Yeah, I don't see really anybody kind of standing in their way. I was gonna look up what's the bracket look like. Do you know like which group plays who and when?
No idea the bracket. I know like it's not balanced well either.
No, I mean, we've got USA, Mexico, Argentina all in the same group. No disrespect to the Dominican Republic, even though I just absolutely disrespected them. Yes, so it's quarterfinals, semifinals, and final. Yeah, there's no shot Team USA comes up anything short than a finals appearance, where they'll probably play Brazil. If I had to guess, maybe Colombia.
Well, no, that's why I said it's going to depend on their semifinal draw. They are at least a top 4 team in this tournament.
Yeah,
in my opinion. The semifinals, if they get Colombia, Colombia's really good. If they get Brazil, Brazil's really good. I don't necessarily know what rosters these teams brought because it's
this
it's
is pretty close to
not
our A team.
far. It's not far from. I'm at the other
Oh.
teams. It's not far from the World Cup. It's a little before seasons are going on and stuff, so some could not be fully fit in that sort of sense, or others might be hurt. I know some people are injured. That's why Alex Morgan was playing. But lost my train of thought. They're at least a top 4 team in this tournament, so they should make it at least the semis, and they can win the whole thing. So it's like minimum semifinal ceiling is winning the Gold Cup, and they should win the Gold Cup, in my opinion.
Absolutely, I agree. I think they should win it, and we will have the results and hopefully the draw by our Wednesday show, but we'll have to see. Also, we got a shout out there from FSL. Glad you could join us on the show here. But John, with all of that out of the way, anything else that you want to talk about today?
Not really, Jimmy. I'm all good right now.
Sounds good, man. We appreciate everybody watching. As always, so I got that little QR code that lives over my shoulder for a Buy Us Coffee account. I also will pop it up on the screen here. We appreciate any and all support that we get on the show. We also have an iHeartRadio, a Spotify, and an Apple Music podcasting platforms. Make sure you're listening to us on all of those 3 platforms, and make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, X, as I guess the kids are officially referring it to as.
It's still Twitter.
I think you're showing your age. I think the
domain is twitter.com.
It's also x.com.
Nah, that's when you share it. When you go to it on your computer, which is how I go to it most of the time when I'm crafting stuff, it is still twitter.com.
Yeah. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok.
We might be
going YouTube.
Finally getting on Facebook soon.
Who, us getting a Facebook soon? That would be interesting.
We talked about it.
We did.
I'm telling you, we're missing a whole demographic.
Maybe on the next one. Hold on, I have to get this on before we close out. No to Michael.
You want to show your age
here? MySpace.
Do you want to show your age here, Jimmy? Because I never had a MySpace page. I never had one.
Wow.
That thing was dead by the time I got into like middle school.
That's all right. Me and Michael, we'll just go hang out on MySpace.
Michael's my age. Michael's like around my age.
We'll do a top 8, Michael. Let's see who's in yours versus who's in mine. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us on another great episode of Bluegrass Southcast. We'll be back on Wednesday for another full show talking about Racing Louisville and their at least one of their matches down in Columbia, as well as continuing to preview Louis City and Lexington as they head into another weekend of preseason matches. But make sure to like, follow, comment, share, and do all that fun stuff. We'll see you on the next